Commission. May we have the roll call, please, Martha?
Commissioner Prince?
Here.
Commissioner Choma?
Here.
Commissioner Spray?
Present.
Commissioner Lukes?
Partially, yes.
Commissioner Palacios?
Aquí.
Palacios.
Palacios. And now, see, I have this block now.
I know. You looked at me. I knew
terrible.
you were gone.
I know.
Just say him.
Him? Okay, so you have a quorum.
Like 6, like the last time when you said we have all 6 are here. All right.
Exactly, the silent one.
Would you please lead the roll call? I mean, the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read the last 3 months' worth of minutes? September, October, and November 2013? No? The answer is no. We're going to take a minute then.
I perused that. I mean, it's only like 50 pages.
I know. No, I went over them. I had a few questions, just a couple of Wincy questions on the minutes that we received for review, if I may.
Definitely, please.
Okay.
And you are Commissioner Choma.
Which one are you looking at?
Here, starting with September 18th,
Okay.
2013. The second, let's hold on a second. Second page. And this particular issue is referred to again in the next agenda in October. But this is where it first appears. It will be item 7A. And if you go almost all the way to the bottom, second line up, Commissioner made a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness, etc. And so it was meant to read Commissioner Choma, which was, when we look at the October minutes, Commissioner Palacios brought that up, and we indicated, and that appears in the October minutes, and the decision was to not approve any of the minutes until those small changes were made. So where are we with that?
Okay, so I am noticing on these minutes that I made a couple changes and they are not here in the stapled one. I happened to proof the minutes when they came out and noticed that it said just Commissioner made a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness. So I pointed that out to my administrative person, and she recompiled the minutes under our program, our software program, and then, so she included page 3 separate, showing that Commissioner Choma made a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness.
Does that appear on the one that we have?
It should be a separate page. She was trying to save paper and rather than reprinting the whole
I
thing.
see, and so this is, that change was made in the October one?
Right.
Okay, great, that's
I-
wonderful.
I don't quite understand what's going on with this
Okay.
program, because there's a couple other changes I made that were just tiny ones, like a bracket
Okay,
or
so that was
something
the first
that
of
aren't there.
two, so if it's there, that's
Okay.
fabulous. I didn't see it, but I did see that Commissioner Palacios had brought it up. Now, moving on to the October one, in article, well, we have page 4 of the October. I don't know, just for the sake of clarity, we have a paragraph at the top. Then we have a single line saying, after asking questions, the commission listed additional concerns. And then there's number 1. That portion of the town is territorial. The territorial part of the project is getting torn down. All right. I think that needs to be amended. I clearly remember the discussion. We have it on record. what would really help for clarity, because it informs the decision that we made in that meeting. And so it's very simple. Commissioner Palacios stated that that portion of the town is territorial. And I responded to that statement by stating that my sense was that this portion of town was a combination of Pueblo and territorial. It does inform somewhat the decision that we made later on, and I also, in that same sentence, pointed to a few photographs that were given to us up and down the street, and pointed out across Ranchitos Road, we had one Pueblo style, we had one territorial style. Across Montoya, or I think that's the street, right across from this project, we had a Pueblo style. And so I made that comment immediately afterwards, and I think it just gives the flow of what that conversation really was. But to say that portion of town is territorial almost sounds as if that is a statement of fact. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say who stated it, it just makes a statement of fact, and that is not that's not accurate. It was stated by, as a discussion by both commissioners.
And what's bothering me is that I actually changed some of the language here, because rather than territorial, I said the architecture in that portion of town, or I put in the architecture. So
no, it's just wanting to be helpful, just to clarify
okay,
that.
so
That's all.
I can make that change. I have no problem with doing that.
And that's those were my two little things. Now I'm done. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything that they want to add on the minutes?
No,
No?
I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from September, October, and November. Do I have a second? To approve 3 sets of minutes.
A second.
Commissioner Palacios has seconded that. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Now, just to trick you guys, or just to see if you were on your toes, we did not yet approve the agenda. I'm sorry. I got moving so
Should we start
fast, I
over
wanted
with-
to start over.
with a roll
No, but
call?
we need to, no, we did the roll call and the pledge just perfectly. So we do need to approve the agenda, and I have something to add to it, which is, we are by law and by our bylaws, we have to approve the Open Meetings Act every January. So that's not on this agenda. I don't know, but I would like to add it to it. So we'll do that. Why don't we do that right away, like next, and then we'll do citizens forum. We don't have copies of the Open Meetings Act, but does everyone pretty well know what that is? You all have copies from last year. Basically, it's 72 hours notice, written and posted notice of any historic preservation meeting, unless there's an emergency meeting, and I think that can be 24 hours. Maybe not with this commission. It's with most boards, but not with this commission.
Yeah,
72.
72 hours.
72 is it? Okay. So then we can't have any emergencies in this group. All right, so I need a motion to agree to go by the Open Meetings Act for the rest of this year.
To do what?
To agree to follow the Open Meetings Act for the rest of this year on this
Are
commission.
you adding it to the agenda or?
Yes, I wanted
She's
to
doing
add
both.
it.
She's adding it and she's voting on it.
I wanna just get it
Entertaining a
done.
motion on it.
So first we have to approve the
Yeah, all right,
agenda as
let's-
amended.
That's fine, yes.
Okay, so
I
move.
do- Okay,
Second.
great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, now I'm so determined we do this on time. Are we, and we have to do it this month by law. So I'd like someone to make a motion that we agree to follow the Open Meetings Act for this entire year in this commission.
So move.
Okay, Pavel moved it. Second? Second. Ms. Prince seconded it. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, good. Thank you for getting that off my chest. All right, Citizens Forum. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak? Yay. Would you need to be sworn in, I think. No, you don't. I'm sorry, you don't. I'm on a different board right now, or commission. Okay, go ahead.
Do we, need to
Ms.
swear?
Cantu? No, she's just going to be, I don't think you have to swear in for Citizens Forum now.
No,
No,
we're
no,
not
no.
having a public hearing.
No.
But you could introduce yourself in case anyone doesn't know you.
In case any of you don't know me, Judy Cantu, for the record. I'm just following up on a vote that was made in 2011, actually when I was sitting on the commission with you guys, about the 7 styles of architecture that we were going to allow in the historic overlay zone. And it's my understanding that it never made it to the mayor and the council because Bill Morris never got it there. And he's gone now. But I think it's something that you need to revisit and take to the mayor and the council now before it's too late. And I came to the town council meeting last night with my skills at public speaking, attempting to, express myself. But, the big, I'm not real sure what to call it, that's going up north of the post office, the
The apartment complex.
Tarleton property.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel it should be built in one of those 7 styles and not in modern or conventional. This is what you guys are all about, the Historic Preservation Commission, and this is a historic overlay zone. And for 30, 40, 50 years down the road, I just think it's respectful to do, and I really would appreciate it if you'd follow up on that and get those votes, if you have to dig them up, to show that we had voted on it, and and it needs to be moved on, and that way nothing sneaks in unexpectedly. And that's about all I have to say, but I wanted to...
By get those votes, do you mean have our work taken forward to council and get them
I want
approved?
to,
Well, if the votes, there should be minutes and a vote from 2011 when we
Right.
voted on that.
Right.
So, it'd be a matter of pulling up the minutes, I guess,
So Martha maybe can find it
And,
and revisit that.
and resubmitting it, if that's the process.
it's already come before us.
No,
on-
this is the stars. Yeah, we can go back to the project itself, but to reapprove or approve the styles, right? Is that what that's
Yeah.
what you're asking, right?
I mean, it was
It's
already voted on, just not submitted,
Was
so
it voted?
I think it
It's
should...
come before us twice, and there were some modifications and so forth about it, and it did take a lot of dialogue. One of the compromises about that, Judy, was that we preserve. There was a list of issues that related. I think it was something like 8 of them that were numbered that they needed to follow, and part of it, the one I was the most concerned, I think it was probably number 2, was that they save the 2 existing building, Dr. Kilgore's office and what is now the Dragonfly, that they upgrade those. I've heard through the grapevine that maybe that's to be contested, but that was our stance. I think if they do come up with something where that is contested, then I would probably ask for it to be brought back before us. But we went round about it, and one of the things that we asked for was that the architect come and do a presentation, and in terms of colors and materials and massing, I thought they met us halfway. It's not really up to us to design the building, but I think that they made an effort. We felt that they made enough of an effort, and it wasn't a simple one. But those restrictions, that's the word, that we put on it, were really for the good of the community. We talked about the acequias, we talked about the landscaping, and so forth. And
Are those buildings going to be demolished, or are they going to be saved? Dr.
well,
Kilgore's
according to
office
us, they're going to be saved. That was part of the restriction. But according to who knows what, and maybe Martha has some input on that, but I've understood that they weren't really happy with all the restrictions that we put on them, and I don't know how much they have followed through in terms of, because from here I went back to the planning and zoning for zoning modifications of some
Well,
kind.
yeah, that passed last night, the R14 and the mixed usage.
Yeah,
went
Right,
through
so
last
that was
night,
a next step. But the restrictions that we put on were extensive, and as a whole project, we've already been around it. And you would have been welcome as a dialogue, but just to up and then revisit it.
Anyway, I just wanted to.
No, and I
you know,
think we are trying to find those things. We had the sign codes, we had the styles, we've had the.
Just in case they didn't go through, they need to go through, you know, just for the protection of the future generations in the HOZ. And I just, I mean, people can build whatever they want outside of that, but, you know, it's like I was saying last night,
I
once you
think you're
put things
talking
up,
about two
you can't
different
take it
things. You're
down.
talking specifically about a project,
She
and
is
you're
too.
talking, no, she's talking about the approved styles. Am I
Wait a
correct?
minute, wait a
Judy's
minute.
talking about both things.
She's talking, wait a minute, Pavel, I think I
I
understand.
want to find out.
Well, it's the styles, you know, because we had decided at that time, no conventional, no modern. That wasn't one of the styles, so, you know, I don't know what the style of this project is, but, you know, I hope out of respect for the historic zone that it is not modern or conventional, that it's one of the 7 that we decided on is all. So I just need it to go by the mayor and the council to make sure that it's got teeth.
Absolutely. When the thing was brought before us is when we noticed that some of those things were missing. There was nothing for, in other words, when they presented this is not the time you say, oh, something is missing, but that's when it was noticed. I mean, you can't say, oh, there's a law that we can't show you about what to do. No, they're missing from the current.
Because I can always request the documentation. Yeah, I don't want to keep you all here. I
No,
know
Judy,
you
what
don't
I'm
want
trying to
That's
tell you
fine.
is that what you're saying is a good point and is what we're trying to remedy, and it did get dropped. That got dropped, and the sign stuff got dropped, that
That got bypassed.
or bypassed, whatever. When the people were given restrictions about the historic zone, they really were using the old.
Yeah, the 2 styles that were previous from the old guidelines.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, anyway.
Well, but in the mash of people changing and stuff, and I appreciate you're giving us a heads up and reinforcing that, and I like that you even gave us a date when that was, but we're supposed
Well, I
to be
was
digging all
on this
those papers
commission
up.
only so briefly
and
before
trying to-
I got the boot.
What's that?
I was only on the commission briefly before I got the boot, so.
Okay. Well, thank you
yeah.
for bringing
Martha?
it up.
It had
Martha?
nothing to do with you.
I would like to add to Commissioner Palacios' comments. I believe I remember exactly what you are speaking of, and we did vote as a commission on what we felt would be appropriate architecture for the Taos Historic District. And this was submitted, hopefully, with the intention of integrating that into the code. What did result once we submitted this, we were given a worksheet of 9 defined architectural styles. When this was submitted further to Town Council and for approval, it was determined further down the line that many of the architectural styles that we were presented with were, in fact, associated with or were tributaries. They were closely related. And so the styles were reduced to 3 styles, and that was integrated in the code. What also came as a result of that vote was something that I alluded to more recently when we were determining, we were working on a project, a certificate of appropriateness, and the issue came up. At that same time, when we reviewed all of these styles, we as a commission at that time determined that we did not wish contemporary architecture in the historical district. If we go back to matter of record, I brought this up in at least 2 consecutive meetings when we were dealing with it in 2013. As a result of what occurred at the most recent meeting, we still do not have written into code that contemporary shall be a part of the historic district. We do not have that written in there. We do have integrated, if my understanding is correct, and we should verify that with Martha Perkins, that we do have integrated the 3 styles that we did approve of for the historic district. And then Commissioner Palacios is now referring to a more recent project that came before us, and I did bring that issue up, that we as a commission, if I'm not mistaken, made a decision about no contemporary, and that we needed to look into that further. And we did, in fact, grant a certificate of appropriateness, but with a good deal of conditions that had to be met, attached to it. And when these conditions are met, and they're a matter of record, then this can proceed forward.
Okay,
And that was the final decision.
Also, Judy, if I remember correctly, Oscar, you'll probably remember, the first time they came, that building was much more modern looking, and then Oscar, I think it was you that wanted it rounded more bull-nosed, and they changed the drawings. So we were paying attention.
Yay.
The thing that is important is that, and Martha has agreed to help get the changes that we all worked on through the council finally at this time.
Okay, well, I just had to come and say something, since
Okay, thank you.
burning through me, so.
Good to see you.
Anyway.
And Martha?
So with this particular project that you're talking about, it first came to the Historic Preservation Commission, and they gave their certificate of appropriateness with the conditions. And then, at the same time, they were also asking to rezone the property. So 2/3 of it was zoned R14, multifamily residential, and 1/3 was C2. So last night, what went before the council was that rezoning, which is on a separate, it's on a separate path from the review of the site plan. So after the planning and after the Historic Preservation Commission gave the certificate of appropriateness with many conditions, some of those conditions actually apply to the site plan that's before the Planning and Zoning Commission currently. The Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed it once, and they will be reviewing that site plan again in their next meeting next month. I think that's February 5th. And so there will be the final hearing if the commission decides that they want to go ahead and approve it. They may decide that they still don't have enough information and will want to have the applicant come back with more information. But the certificate of appropriateness did ask for landscaping and for trees that exist to be retained, that there be enough parking, that the buildings in front of the property be preserved, and that there be a stabilization plan created, and that must exist before the building permit is issued, that the acequias must be preserved, that there must be a construction plan. These guys did a great job. They really did.
Thank you.
We did that.
And Judy, just so you know, I think we would call the new style something like Spanish Pueblo Revival Modern Fusion. But it's,
Okay.
it's much more, it looks much more like our, like, you know that apartment complex by the Kit Carson Park? You know, it kind of fades away into nothing. Yeah. No, not the modern one, the one that's in between them. See, nobody even knows it's there because it just seems like it's part of the park or something. But it looks like a modern Spanish Pueblo revival.
Yeah, I know where you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really not that bad now. It's not what I would have done, but it's not that bad.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you. Anyway, I got another place to be, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, that was nice what you said. Thank you. You did a lot of work on that, too. All right, matters from staff.
Okay. So I had a request. There's a antenna currently on the town hall, and it's like a dish. It's about this high, and they want to move it to over here for communications. And so I was looking in the code to see whether or not it applied under the historic overlay zone. And that's actually, I provided the code section, and I provided it in this section underneath the blue piece of paper. And what it basically says is that we have no say, that it's allowed.
Is
So
it
if you look
possible?
under permitted uses on the last page, under 15.32.050, there's permitted uses, and it tells you, given the height, what's allowed. And those are permitted uses under Chapter 15, which is different from the Land Use Development Code. But they did want me to let you know that they would be moving that antenna over here. And I do get quite a few questions by wireless companies who are actually trying to integrate their services with what exists like on telephone poles and things, so that you don't see them, so that they're complementary to the historic overlay zone, but at the same time they're providing service to the town. So I just thought I'd bring that up because I was asked.
That's really great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Is
you.
it possible that we could get a little blurb or something in here where we would encourage them to locate it at the center of the roof so it wouldn't be visible?
They did say that they would be doing that.
Okay.
So
I love
I
you.
asked the same question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've got no issue with if I can't see it.
Right. Well, and that's what I try to do as the code administrator when these applications come before me. I try and minimize the visual impact, even though we don't have a lot of say. I have some say in how they do it. So that's what I try and do. And they usually agree. I mean, they're open to it. So it's no big deal.
We really like you. You think like we do.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you. So is that it from matters from
Yes,
staff?
that's just the information item.
Yeah, I have just a quick question. We I think, are all sort of watching the fiber optic installation throughout Taos County and in all its peaks and dips. And how does, just out of curiosity, does staff have a sense of how much that will impact the town of Taos?
You're talking about the broadband?
Yeah, the fiber optic installation, and so, I mean, with fiber optics, is there an anticipated reduction of towers and so forth? That's what I'm wondering about. Do you know anything about that? I'm wondering.
I
Fiber
don't.
optics, I'm always thinking, is, in a channel in the ground, and I'm wondering whether how viable or how soon in our, future here are we expected to see some sort of completion of that fiber optic integration? And is there a sense of how that will impact antennas and towers that we're currently using?
I have a comment on that. The optics and stuff that they're putting around the town actually my neighborhood too, Blueberry Hill and so forth. I find it disturbing, but if the utilities are buried, then they're following that protocol. But if they're above ground, they're just adding another big old heavy line. It's two lines. It's a woven line that suspends from pole to pole, and it's put in such a manner that it doesn't interfere with the other stuff. So you're adding another row for the pigeons, and then it's the fiber line. The new lines are then wound around it, so that becomes suspension for it, which makes it even bigger. So, like in my neighborhood, there's this extra line running. Most of the stuff is buried in that neighborhood, and then somehow it came up, and then once it's up and established, they don't ever want to put it back underneath. The only time you can have it underground is when it's first put in. But they're not. If the right of way is on poles, then they're adding it on poles, and if it's underground, then
I
they're
see.
doing it underground.
So it will vary. It will vary depending on the right-of-way and the location.
Right, and they're real nice about it, but they still just do whatever they want. I mean,
I can speak a little bit to that too, because I did the pre-survey for that line and surveyed all the buildings in the county that were on that line. And as I understand it, they have to survey everything within 50 feet. So anything that would impact the historic district in that way, we would know about. They would have to let us know about. So I don't think we're going to see anything that happens
So
here.
all of the ones in the historic district are underground?
They either already are or they're going to go over. But they're not going to go within 50 feet of any historic building and us not know about it.
That is excellent information. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Have they not already done it around the plaza?
Wonderful, thank
I
you.
thought they did it months
right, but
ago.
then how are they naming the historic buildings? I mean, to me, everything in the historic zone is
I had to
is-
survey, like, when I was
Was it
in
significant and
Costilla, for
contributing?
instance, I have to date every single building along the line. I'm like, yes, that anything that's on the right of way, I have to give them a date for, if it's not obvious that it's relatively new.
Okay, I'm not going to drag it on. I'm just saying, one person's interpretation
Exactly.
of the historic buildings don't necessarily jive with what I keep asking for, and that is an updated. I would like to see an updated designation for the buildings, even if there's a third designation that doesn't go with the state. The state has significant and contributing, and then the other one may just be Town of Taos historic area, a third one.
I
But,
support that.
but it hasn't happened. Not unlike the sign, some of the sign codes and so forth. But I see it's on the agenda, so I'll have to wait on some of that, see how much we have progressed.
Well, we're almost there. I think we're pretty close to, are you done with, Marika, with your comment about the fiber optic? Yes? Okay, we'll move
No,
on to
thank
number
you.
8,
That's-
matters from Historic Preservation Commission, proposed sign changes to the sign code, section 1620.0105. Discussion item. I believe that's in the packet.
Right. So what I did.
Past the yellow thing. The yellow.
So underneath the green tab, there is the current code. And so I pulled out the part that applies specifically to the historic overlay zone, the special rules, regulations, and restrictions, of which there's not that many. And then underneath that is the new ordinance, the new sign ordinance that was passed. And so it's now in Chapter 16, it was in 15. And so it's now part of the land use code. And then underneath the yellow tab, or the yellow sheet, is the meeting, what was discussed as far as the sign code, with your discussion of the revisions to the historic district overlay section of the code. What I'm noticing when I looked through this was that there was some talk about having special signage for the central business district in addition to the historic overlay zone. And so I don't know how that plays a role anymore. The historic overlay zone has a lot of R14 in it, as well as the central business district zone. So I don't know. Anyway, so that's what I'm bringing forward tonight, because we had talked about taking the code changes that Judy Cantu was talking about, but we wanted to maybe update the sign portion of it, as far as to allow neon signs or allow murals. And I also noticed in the previous iteration that everything was to come before the Historic Preservation Commission, like a mural or some sort of neon sign that would integrate with the historic overlay zone. That was the intent, would obtain your approval before it could be formally approved. And it may be as simple as that, you know, just allowing murals, allowing the neon type signs, the old-fashioned type signs,
Right.
and having your approval.
I think that's what we ended up wanting. And the central business district, I think what that was referring to was the plaza with the open signs that blink, and so many of those those businesses on the plaza right now have prefab open signs, and a lot of them blink, and the blinking part wasn't supposed to be allowed. And then we even thought that we had suggested that signs not be of those type that you buy at Sam's Club, and for that plaza area, I think is what we were talking about, where we pulled out to define a little bit more the signage for that plaza, the merchants on the plaza. And I don't know, we talked about whether or not you could do that, but just to keep the plaza less tacky looking with the
Right. And
cheesy
then
signs.
in the current code, you're allowed to 20% of the window. As far as you putting in your open. The blinking open signs are not allowed. We are getting a new code enforcement person. She will also be sharing the job, though, as an animal control officer. She starts January 27th. She's done a lot of code enforcement in Espanola and in Rio Arriba County. So I think she'll be a big asset. In a previous commission meeting, you know, following up on what you're talking about as far as the plaza, we had talked about maybe a master signage plan or something for the plaza.
What I think we didn't want was the neon or LED sign. I think LED's not allowed either, but even the neon ones that you buy at Sam's Club or whatever, those open signs they look like neon signs. They aren't real actual historic or vintage, but they were something that was bothering a bunch of the commission when you'd walk downtown at night. So I think to answer your original question about the difference that we were going for with the central business district versus the historic district, I think that was one of the differences, if not all of the difference.
Generally, neon.
Do we have anything in the code that addresses the materials to be used for signage specifically in the historic district? In other words, is a new sign able to be plastic or vinyl? Is really where we're going. Or do we have a restriction on the materials so that they conform to the characteristics of the architectural design standards of the historic district? It would seem to me that would be important to integrate the signage with the design standards. We have stucco colors, we have allowable colors for window trim, but I don't know that we have anything that makes the signage compatible with the architecture and the design standards that we have in code right now.
We don't allow the LED or the, the internally If you look under the section of the historic overlay zone, which is 16.20.010.5.13, it talks about neon tubing signs are prohibited, and we're getting into kind of what Cindy was talking about. But we don't really have anything as far as the materials. So a lot of the signage on the plaza varies quite a bit, and we have a lot of vinyl signs.
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
We don't have anything regarding the materials of the sign, so a lot of the signage on the plaza is the vinyl signage. And I didn't realize that when I first came here, and I was a shop owner. I said, really, vinyl? Isn't there like some sort of standard? And he said, no, come look.
Well,
And I did, and it's all different kinds of signs. But we need to figure out how, if we're going to grandfather in what's there, realizing that the businesses have spent money on those signs.
of course.
So,
Well, I think that is something that perhaps was missed or is something that needs to be addressed. It hasn't to date, but what we're essentially saying is that space age materials used for signs in the historic district are okay, even though we're working very hard to maintain the integrity of the design standards in the historic district. And so that's a dichotomy. And so I do think that if we do not have that in code, that is something that we need to continue to work on. And from my own perspective, so that we are completely consistent in the feel of the historic district. And that is consistent with the architecture.
Do you have any notions of what that should read like? Or is that something you would like to spend
I
time
do feel
between now and
that
next
plastic and vinyl should not be a part of that picture.
Well, what I'm looking at is that she's brought us, as I skim over it, pretty much what we had proposed be the changes to the ordinance. And there are two ways to approach it, in my opinion, and one is to have us each look at it between now and our next session and submit it. And
Yes.
or if there's just one or two items, then I'm for like adding or changing them, or beginning that process tonight. I mean, why put it off any
Well,
farther?
we don't need to.
Like if this is what we wanted, and is short of a line or two, I want to keep it moving forward rather than.
Right, this is what we said we wanted, and this is what never went to council, right? The thing
Right.
from May 16th.
So-
This is what we worked on before.
So do we want to amend it?
Right.
It's kind of a question. It's a dialogue. Do we want to take the time and read it over last time so that then the next time we can say, short of a line or two or whatever, this is what we want as a group? Or do we want to just say, put it in, and then we would live with things and then add them as you go
No,
along?
I think it is an area that needs to be further defined that is currently not defined in code.
So then
So tonight, I started by reconfirming that this is a fact. We do not have in code right now materials that signs can be made of. So there's a vast array of materials out there for signage, including signs that are appropriate for car washes and amusement parks. And when we don't define the materials used, we may have such signs in the historic district because we simply have not defined them. So I am putting out this evening that we continue to work on that and put that on our agenda to define how the signage as far as materials for signs. We have discussed as a commission in the past signage that for the historic district that reflects the artisanship here in Taos and that legacy of artisanship. And that is not mass-produced vinyl off an assembly line. So that's clear, and the other thing we need to do is perhaps start with what are things that we do not wish to see in the historic district because they're simply incompatible with what we're working on protecting and preserving for now and the future. And I think that will continue and start to serve the purpose of when we know what we do not wish to see, that will further define what we wish to see, and I think that we will be able to get to what materials are appropriate for signage. And that's
So
what I
it's-
suggest.
Pleasure of the commission to take this home and have it as homework and bring it back next month, or do you want to hash out a little bit here if it's close enough when we add the materials? Martha, just before, I want to make sure I'm right about this. These were what we thought of to add with Mr. Morris on May 16th, the ones that are dated that. Is this and the one before the yellow sheet ordinance, the one that replaces chapter 15, is that the current one now? Is the one that they all start 16?
Right. And
Okay.
then the other thing that may be helpful in this ordinance, 1302, is there are specifically prohibited signs throughout the entire town, and they start on page 13. So,
Okay.
and one of the differences that I see between the town and what's prohibited and what's downtown is the town allows these internal lit box signs,
Right.
and the historic district does not allow those except for menu signs. So I don't know why the menu signs got pulled out. And then LDD signs are not allowed. And so I noticed that with this code that was presented, there's two different options as far as what was presented before. And one was just to have your open signs so they're not lit at all, and they're limited to that 20%. So,
Right.
That's
good.
what this
Is-
group was wanting. I
right,
remember that. Yeah.
right. And so that might want to be clarified.
Okay, so Oscar, did you have something to say?
I think I said it. I just wanted to emphasize that I want this stuff to move.
I actually would like
Yeah.
to ask a point of clarification, if I might, to work towards Oscar's point. Is it as simple as we could add on the 16.2.0, all that, an H that says signs may be painted or wooden?
I don't think
Can it be that simple?
I don't think so, because I don't think any of the work that we did on the signage with Mr. Morris, I don't think any of that got
We may not-
translated into the new
I
ordinance.
think that I
did
would
it?
like to define the process
Some of it is.
from what
Oh,
I
it is in
That's
it?
what's confusing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
From what I
Then maybe it
understand,
might be that simple.
as a commission, we did begin to put some work into the sign code. We began that process. And so I am thinking that my understanding of the process was that that signage needs to be clearly defined, including materials. If that's what we wish to add as a commission, signage that reflects artisanship within the historic district and not contemporary materials or space-age materials, we should be able to say that under the heading of materials for signage. And I would simply like to reconfirm what the process is. Once this commission comes to agreement as to materials for signage, does this need to be brought before the town council? My understanding is yes. And then that change, that addition to code needs to be voted on by the town council. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So I simply suggest, and I don't know whether that's this evening, that we start on that. Should be one of the things that we can get on immediately, and perhaps have this defined by next month's meeting. And what we're specifically doing is simply discussing the materials used for signage in the historic district. once we have that, we can submit that to town council and go from there. And perhaps we can see this as, we will get to that moment where this is an amendment, an addition to existing code. So that's what I'm suggesting this evening. So I hope that that is moving forward, as Commissioner Palacios would like to see.
Well, I think the intent is to move forward, as you're stating it, but I know that we have spent about 2.5 years writing and rewriting and commenting and recommenting and so forth, and I have yet to see any of these the styles, the noise, all these stuff that we've brought up that we want. I've yet to see it put to writing, and yeah, if we work on it for next week, or excuse me, next month, but I want to see us wrap it up and submit it. I mean, because until it's law, it's nothing, in a sense.
Well, we can begin by defining the materials for the signs in the historic
Well,
district.
but that's why I was asking you if you had any ideas what those materials would be, or do you want to think about it for a month?
Yes.
You know?
Yes,
Okay,
I do
fine.
have ideas.
Oh, well, then.
And I'm
that's
sure
what
that all of the commissioners have ideas, and I suggest that we put them down and we come to a quantum consensus. And once we have that this will then be submitted to town council for their vote as to being included in code.
You have something to say, I can tell.
Yeah, I'm wondering, given that you guys want to move this along, especially Rachel and Oscar, we have the rest of the code that Marika found, as far as the architectural styles, and then a lot of the edits for the Pueblo Spanish Revival style and the territorial. And I was thinking that that's something that has been worked on. You feel, I believe the commission feels comfortable with it. I don't know if you've looked at it recently, because what we could do is we could start taking that forward.
Yes.
And while you're working on the sign, I see the sign being a little bigger deal. But we could start the other moving forward. I could take that through the process as far as a code amendment.
Right. And I have emailed these documents of record, including our work in these various areas, to all the commissioners.
Right. That sounds like a good idea to me.
Because then we're separating it, and the signage, it may become somewhat controversial.
Well, and
But the other may not, because you're clarifying what you're already requiring. And when I read the code, I was confused as to, is this sort of an example, or do we really need to be worried about the particulars? And I heard back from you when we were looking at some of these
That's right.
proposals, is you're looking more at the particulars.
Right, right.
And so I think some of those code changes clarify that quite a bit.
yeah, and I would like to say that on the zoning, we had expert help. There was a gentleman writing and putting in bold and crossing out things. I mean, it was really quite thorough. On the signage thing, it seems to be that little link seems to be missing in the sense of this is what it is. That's one. These are the changes as proposed to take out these 4 lines. But that was done by the gentleman Feathering Guild. I like to see it come to that kind of a format. But how do we get that kind of help where someone actually sits and types out, or a word processing where it says the stuff that's we don't want in there is X'd out, and the stuff that we're adding in there is bold, and the stuff in regular type is the stuff that's to remain, because that's then a lot easier to look at than, well, there's a rewrite on section such and such, and there's an addition of one other section.
No.
But how are we going to get to that point is my question.
Well, I do think that we need to simply work on, for instance, if you see throughout the entire code, depending on what the subject matter is, we have such and such and such, shall, is not permitted, or shall not be permitted in the historic district. Well, I can certainly envision a paragraph on materials for signs. Vinyl, plastic, LED, shall not be permitted in the historic district. That's a very simple statement and it's very clear. What is encouraged, what is permitted, next paragraph, what is permitted in the historic district, and we can define that as a commission. We need to do that. We can set up in a number of ways, depending on what the commissioners feel, along with staff, is the best way to accomplish that. We can devote the next meeting, perhaps, to that, work on what we wish to integrate. We can submit that to staff prior to meeting, and then sit down and work that out by next meeting, depending on how quickly we would like to move on that.
Rachel.
From there, once we narrow it and we're clear in our intent and in our verbiage, this can be brought to the via staff to the town council. That's what I suggest. I have no other suggestion. I can't imagine how to do it otherwise. We are bound by process.
Rachel, you can't be here all the time. What would you like to see happen in terms of moving this? I like Martha's idea of doing the part that doesn't include the sign code immediately.
I agree. I do agree. And I would also love that if there is going to be a movement on that, and this is just a personal request from me, is that when you're addressing the sign code issues, if that could be either coincident or closely followed by addressing the protection of the acequias. I have proposed some things for you guys to look at, and I would really love to have that added to the code while y'all are still working on it. So I very much agree that the work that was done early when there was marking out and adding in was much clearer. It's very hard to follow. I'm like flipping and I'm like, what did we do? I remember this, but I don't know, where did this come from? And it would be really great. I hate to add to anybody's plate, but I would like to add an H and an I tonight to make life over, or make like life easy and get this over, but I don't know where to even start because I need to navigate all of this information.
Okay, so I think that this commission, correct me if anyone thinks that this isn't what we are agreeing on, that you go ahead with moving forward toward council, all the revisions that we made except for the sign code. And then do y'all want to just look at this sign code now at home, come back next time after you've looked at it at home? What do you want to do? Take some time with it at home or do it tonight? It's complicated without the...
It's complicated. I think I don't know.
What?
I want to make it easy and I want to get it done, but I don't know how I can.
Right, exactly.
What I was trying to do was set up a format, get some assistance in terms of the format of present,
Right.
editing, and new. I mean, to begin to set up a format so we can look at Section 3-B is no longer there, or we skipped it, or it should be added again. When you're looking at, this is what we want to present. These are the changes. But it's okay to discuss more things to add and more things to want, but I'm trying to get some assistance to get this into a format like we had with the regular, with that other code that just took the code from the sections that we worked on. From A to B, they had the stuff to remain, the stuff to take out, and the stuff to add.
Okay.
Okay.
How do we get it to that?
So I have this in Word. I can just cut and paste from the current code, put it in Word, and I've pretty much already have done that.
Okay.
So then all I need to do is do the redlining, the track changes.
Okay.
And add, I can go through your document, and I can review what's not allowed for the entire town and then specifically for the historic overlay zone. and I can go ahead and make the additions and deletions reflecting this document
Yes.
for you to review.
Yes.
And then this materials portion of the code as far as for signage, I think we still need to create that. I don't think that there's really
Right, but
much
that becomes,
addressing that.
becomes like under section 12.
Okay,
we
okay,
want to
yeah,
add.
I can
we
easily
want to
do
add-
that.
Yeah, and if we can get a copy of that, or a hard copy, or email copy, so that we're all on the page of, this is where it stands with all the changes, this is where it goes. So we're not flipping back and forth, we're not wondering what's
Right.
in.
Martha.
So the word shall is either in or out, or we make a statement of how we want to see it.
Right.
So when you
Martha.
present that to the powers that be, they know
Yes,
the existing, the demolition, and the new.
correct.
Okay, so Martha, that's great that you would be offering to do that. I think what we need to do then tonight to give Martha everything she needs to work with is we need to give her verbiage for the materials part, so that you have that and you can,
Or give it to her next time, it just becomes an add-on to,
yeah, but don't you want to,
I did, but I thought we were discussing contemplation. But maybe not, whatever.
And have you reviewed the changes that were made earlier? Are you good with all the Fethergill changes? With all those red lines?
Up to where he was, we were.
yes.
But
Okay.
it's complicated, and then it dropped. So-
Okay, because I'll need to cut and paste that code and then do the redlining, I believe, because I believe it's in a PDF format. So I also need to work on that. And that was my understanding that was your top priority.
Yeah, definitely.
So in the
To
interest
finally
of
get
me
it
doing
done.
the work here.
So you're saying you need to be, what I imagined where it was, you're saying it still needs to be tweaked so that it's in a format that shows those three things, right? Or do you want to just see it, you're proposing it brand new? I think when you propose changes, it's nice to have even the people that are approving it to be able to see what.
No, that's the way we do our code
So
changes.
you need to put that into
We
Word.
put the text.
Somebody needs to transcribe that.
Right.
Okay.
Right. We take the original text, we redline it so that people can see the changes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that you are okay as a commission with the changes that have been made to the code. I'm wondering if I shouldn't bring it back to you one more time. Get your formal recommendation for it to go to planning and zoning.
No, I think what would be good with that one is the same as with the sign.
You'll just come up
If we could generate an electronic
Don't you think if we give,
editable copy,
let's do that
that-
quickly and then let's go.
that's what we need. In other words, for the next meeting, if possible, we have, or before, if you could even send it to us, we have, this is where it is. We read it and say, wait a minute, section such and such is missing.
Okay. All right.
And then we add it to that, or we take it out, and then we're building onto something instead of more comments, and we still don't have a I'd like to see the masters
Okay.
get going on both of them.
Okay. You answered my question.
All right, so we're not going to write the verbiage for the materials now, but I think we'll do that right away next meeting. I want to give you everything ready to go. We'll talk about the sign code next meeting, and we'll add the verbiage on the materials.
Okay.
But if you could move forward with the other part, and the part that's so nice of you to offer to do that. I know you are so busy, and it's going to be hard, or
Or
it's just going to be
delegated.
time consuming.
Yeah, and I'm thinking for the record, it would probably be good if I made all those changes, brought them back to you, and then you approve it and recommend it go to the Planning and Zoning Commission as a text amendment to the current code. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission reviews it, and then it will go to council for formal approval. That way, the record's clean, and you have seen it one more time, and that would make me a lot more comfortable.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Okay, thank you all. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
No,
No?
well,
Oscar's
excuse
not
me.
ready.
It seems to me that we're, on terms of matters for the commission, one of the things that's usually addressed in the January meeting is the election of officers, or a nod to maintain the officers, or a statement that says, status quo until after this election, because there seems to be quite a bit of stirring, which would then be what I would like to vote on. That would be just we keep where we are until the shuffle in the town is done, because people are not leaving their posts, and to put them in as an officer or something, and then have them quit because they got a better job, which I would insist. I would insist that they quit anyway. I see having, as I've stated before, more than one position is a conflict of interest. But
No, you for P and Z in this. vote.
No,
everything, and council. No, it's just further aggravating. I just wanted to address the issue that part of our job is to have a handle on what's going on with our officership.
Yeah,
I think we should vote on it now, just like the PNZ did, because that's what we do in January, elections or no elections, and deal with the consequences later. If we're flexible and.
Yes.
But I mean, it's been always the first meeting in January to hold elections of officers. The PNC has already done it.
Right, and the attorney wanted it to be noticed. The reason why I did not notice it is because the mayor is planning to appoint new commission members at the State of the Town meeting.
And
So
what's the
I
date
was
for
waiting
that?
for him to officially appoint the
Yeah.
commission before we did the election of officers. Planning and zoning decided that they were going to go ahead.
So, and when is the
And so
state
that's
of?
what prevails.
Yeah.
It's the 27th of January, the state of the town. It's before the next meeting.
Well, correct. So I'm just saying, as a commission, I would like to, entertain what tact we're going to take. I don't want to just ignore it. In other words, if I would suggest status quo until there's the ground settles a little bit.
I was going to have it status quo and then put it on the next agenda
Right.
after the mayor appoints.
And we want to
The
be
commission members.
we want to be empowered to say what you want to do is what we want to do. So I mean, it's not just that we skip it. So
No, we
I
can't
got
just
so
skip it.
so. I would like to make a motion that the officers remain the status quo until after the state of the town.
No, you don't need a motion.
We don't need a motion for that?
Okay.
We just ignore it? Okay. Well, that's fine. And then,
I would second
Then-
that
then-
motion if that helps.
We can do it.
who knows the protocol of all this stuff?
Well, we might want to say
Well,
something sort of,
I would
we
even-
might want to make a statement about it because it does say in our bylaws, because that's why I brought up the Open Meetings Act. And then I was just thinking, since I hadn't heard from the mayor yet, what his wishes were, that there was, I thought we would be hearing soon, and I kind of thought what Martha thought is maybe we should do that, but we need to say something, I think, about that we are all agreeing to decide to postpone the election of officers till February, because we were supposed to do it in January. Don't you think?
Then go ahead and make a motion, vote on it.
I'm done. I'm done. I've spoken a lot. I'm done.
Well, I must say I'm thoroughly confused now, but as a result of this, but so when is that moment in time then that we have set aside for, appointing commissioners or election of commissioners or officials or positions for the next year? When is that projected for?
That'll be projected for the February meeting.
All right.
Which is different than
February.
our bylaws.
Right, which is different than our bylaws, and we're acknowledging it's different, and with Martha's permission, we're going to roll it to February 19th.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I second
No,
that.
you're not ready, What are you going to say, Rachel? You have something to say?
So I'm sorry, I just would like to have a tiny bit of closure, Pavel.
Then
Uh,
that's fine, I didn't know that
so-
anybody wanted.
We're just going to ignore it? Or we are going to move?
We're deciding that
Are we moving or are we ignoring?
We're agreeing
ignoring.
that we're going to do it on
We're-
February 19th, because we don't know.
It's
if
part of the
there's
public
changes.
record now, I'm fine.
We are acknowledging that it is different from the bylaws, and I think that's important, that we say we are aware of this and we are acknowledging this. And with that acknowledgement that for this year, that we will go through this exercise on February 19th.
Okay.
No, I'm done talking.
Oh, you too.
You said adjourn, didn't you say?
I'll move to adjourn on one condition. That you all stay and let, they're not even listening to me. I'll move to adjourn on one condition, that you all stay for just 1 minute and let Martha take a picture of all of us together for my scrapbook.
Yeah. On the condition you share the picture.
Okay, happy to do so.
And that it's okay with Martha.
No, I just want, I'm really proud to have served with you guys.
That's so nice of you, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Or do we? Yeah, we do
Second.
have- Okay, there you go. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, thank you, Oscar. Thank you.
We got